So this week, the Colorado legislature made a really big decision on housing policy that's been flying under the radar for most people because it wasn't even in committee yet. House Bill 1036, the so-called vacancy tax, that was a new bill for this session, just died in committee, and that's probably a good thing. I know if you're struggling to afford housing in Colorado, especially in these like mountain resort towns, that might sound counterintuitive, but stick with me here, because this bill had some serious problems and there are actually better housing solutions moving through legislature right now that deserve our attention. By the end of this video, I hope that you'll understand why this bill was fundamentally flawed and could have actually harmed housing, affordable housing in our area. And more importantly, I'm going to give you some tips on the bills you should be watching if you care about housing affordability in Colorado. I'm Jessica Chariton. I'm a Colorado realtor and I live and work in Salida, Colorado, which is a mountain town with lots of home vacancies. So this bill would have really affected my market and not in a positive way for affordable housing, as many people thought it might. So you're not going to take, this is just one example, but like a $2 million house and be able to fit 6 local workers in it. That was one of the things that we've discussed. It just wouldn't fly like that. And so let's talk about this a little bit and look at what was in the bill and what was proposed. So sponsored by Representatives Brianna Titone and Elizabeth Valesco, the bill would have given local governments, and this is one of the problems, total power to tax homes that sit vacant for long periods of the year. So second homes and vacation properties in places like Aspen and Vail and Steamboat and Breckenridge, and right here in Chaffee County, that happens a lot. And the basic pitch was simple. In Summit County, 61% of homes are not primary residences. And that number's flipped actually for Salida. More than 61% are. In many mountain counties, it can be over 30%. And people need to earn a lot of money to even be able to afford medium-priced homes. And over half of the workers that live in a mountain community end up commuting from pretty far away to get to work in these mountain towns. So that being said, they were hoping to raise money for affordable housing and maybe incentivize owners to rent out their properties to local workers instead, which sounds reasonable on the surface, right? The bill even required voter approval before a community could actually implement the tax. That would be good. Local control addressing a real crisis. So what's not to like about this? Well, there's quite a bit, actually, in my opinion. Let's look at some of the flaws. Problem number one, it's a tax on property rights that targets people that don't even have representation in the area. So the fundamental issue is that the people that would be paying this tax don't get to vote on it at all. And by definition, these aren't their primary homes, so they don't have addresses here. So they would not be voting on their property because they don't live full-time in the mountain communities where these vacation homes or second homes are. So you're essentially creating taxation without representation, which is not okay. And that's not a small problem. It's a foundational democratic principle that we would be violating if we had moved along with this bill. Problem number two, it wouldn't actually increase the housing supply. This is the biggest one in my mind because multiple opponents, including the Colorado Association of Home Builders, pointed out that vacancy taxes don't create one single new home. They just redistribute existing housing stock and collect revenue that then has to be like pooled and put somewhere. But here's the kicker. The CEO of the Home Builders Association testified that these taxes could actually reduce construction in Colorado. And that's what I saw as the biggest issue because many builders in resort areas rely on buyers who want vacation homes. And if that market dries up, and it could in Colorado with a bill like this, you get less development, not more. The bill, problem number three, let's hold up the right fingers here. The bill was poorly defined and definitely seemed to hit the wrong targets. That problem number two that we just discussed being one of them. The bill left it completely up to the local governments to define what counts as vacant. That's a huge issue. It meant the tax could have hit homes that are built but haven't even sold yet, which would also harm builders, also making new construction and development more expensive. Apartments with rising vacancy rates due to increased supply, which would also harm local workers. A lot of them live in apartments or multifamily homes. It could define people on short-term rental waiting lists in places like Breckenridge, where the wait list stretches on for years. And even though they exempted licensed short-term rentals, what about the unlicensed ones that are just waiting to get a permit? So it's solving the wrong problems. This is problem number 4. The real issue, as one policy expert put it, is in Colorado, we don't need more taxes or revenue schemes. It's the land use restrictions that are really hurting us, and the regulatory barriers that prevent housing from being built in the first place at all. A vacancy tax is treating the symptom that we're seeing, not the disease, like a Band-Aid on a bullet wound type issue. And problem number 5 is that it wasn't fair. Even 3 Democrats in the House Finance Committee voted against this bill, and it was a Democrat proposed bill. Representative Sean Camacho from Denver raised a critical point and said, if I owned a property in a community and I'm paying my property taxes, don't I have the right to choose what I do with that property? And that resonated with a lot of people, including his constituents who couldn't even really afford to own the second homes if this passed. And I know some people in this state are not able to buy a first home, and that's really hard. But harming construction harms everyone in Colorado. After a 4.5-hour hearing, the committee voted 7-4 to kill the bill, and I feel like they made the right call. Okay, so if we've covered all of that about why it's good that bill died, which bill should we be watching instead? There are much better housing bills moving through legislature right now that actually address the supply problems instead of just taxing people and then seeing if we can figure out something to do with that money to help housing. There's House Bill 1001, the Home Act, Housing Opportunities Made Easier. This just passed the House 35-24 and is now heading to the Senate. It allows nonprofit organizations with a track record of building affordable housing, public schools, colleges, housing authorities, and transit agencies to build housing on land that they already own. And they can bypass local zoning codes to do this. So properties up to 5 acres can have residential developments built up to 3 stories or 45 feet tall. And these plans would go through an administrative approval process, not the lengthy discretionary approval that often kills these projects in discussion. Now, local governments might hate this. The Colorado Municipal League says that this is going to erode local control. But here's the thing. We have 106,000 unit housing shortage in Colorado, and that is not a made up number. That is like a real number and it's why so many people are struggling to find places to live. And local control has often meant not in my backyard. So this bill actually creates new housing, and that is what we need. Another bill to look at is House Bill 1065, the Transit-Oriented Development Incentive. This one creates a new tax incentive mechanism for building housing near transit routes, bus stops, rail stations, and so on. Smart and sustainable development that reduces car usage and car dependence while increasing our housing supply near where people actually need to live so they can get to and from jobs. Now, coming soon, there is another bill that's proposed, the land value tax proposal by Representative Stephen Woodrow, which has hinted when the end of the HB 1036 hearing came about. He said he's working on a bill that will allow land value tax systems. And this is fascinating because instead of taxing buildings, which discourages improving the building, you tax land based on its highest value use. And this incentivizes denser development and penalizes speculative land banking. This could be a game changer in Colorado if it's done right. That will be really interesting to watch. Also, we need to look at Senate Bill 1, which is county housing authority funding. It's already been introduced. This removes restrictions on counties using property taxes revenue to support workforce housing and housing authorities. It removes a lot of red tape, unlocks funding. It could be simple and effective, something else to watch. I get the frustration that led to House Bill 1036 happening. And when you see empty mansions sitting around while some people are commuting to work 2 hours each way, it is deeply unfair. And these feelings, it's important to remember, don't always make good policy. The bills that are actually moving forward right now, like the Home Act, the Transit Incentive, and county funding flexibility, these are addressing the real issue instead of just the symptom. We don't have enough housing and we need to make more of it. And the vacancy tax funds were not going to, that tax money may not even go to building new units. So to me, that bill dying was good news, but the better news to me is that there are real solutions actually on the table this legislative session. Keep your eye on House Bill 1001, especially. That's where some of the action will be. If you want to stay informed, follow the Colorado General Assembly's bill tracker and consider reaching out to your state legislators about the bills that actually matter. Housing Colorado, Colorado Municipal League, and legislative websites all have great resources, and you can ask. I review these things, think about them, love to talk about them. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful at all, please drop a like, please subscribe. I will be following these housing bills all throughout the legislative session, and I'll update you again and talk to you about what actually matters for the future of Colorado. See you next time.